Hi, I'm Shayla with Revolting Science Resources, a company designed to bring the principles of project management to academic scientists. And in today's video, I'm going to do something a little different. So if you've watched some videos on my channel before, you might have gathered I'm a little obsessed with the project management tool Notion. And specifically, when I create a lot of the resources that I make specifically for academic researchers, I tend to use Notion as the tool in which I create my templates. If you'd like to check out some of the Notion templates I have available on my website, I'll put a link in the description box below to the Revolting Science Resources Resource Library, and I'll also put a card on the screen that takes you to the playlist that has all the Notion template previews that I have on my YouTube channel. One of the limitations, though, with making resources that are widely accessible for all academic researchers is that they're not going to fit for everybody's particular situation or research environment. Because of that, there kind of are mainly just two options. One is to reach out to me. I actually work with scientists all over the country and help them create customized solutions within Notion that help support their research labs or projects. Another option is to do some of the tailoring yourself once you download a template from my website. For a lot of people, it can be kind of daunting to really think about how this process works. And so in today's video, I'm going to actually walk you through one of the Notion templates that I have available on my website, specifically the Reference Manager template, and show you how I make some adjustments to it to better fit the research projects that I work on. If you're interested in seeing a little more about what that template looks like and how I get articles that I find on the internet into this Notion-based reference manager, I'd recommend checking out the video where I show how to use Notion's web clipper tool to add articles to this specific template. But now that I've shared a little about some of the goals that I have for this video, let's just go ahead and get started. All right, so here's what the RSR Reference Manager looks like once it's been duplicated into your personal Notion. You can see that this reference manager is a database with a few main properties, including the title for the manuscript, related project tags, a section where you can add a PDF file, and then a place as well for a reference URL. So this template kind of provides just the bare minimum of what you'd likely need as part of a reference manager. But for the way that I'd like to utilize this reference manager, there are a few additional properties and components I'd like to add to the template. So we'll first start by actually adding a few additional properties. I personally find this a little easier to do by making changes in the template that I have for this database. One of the first things that I'd like to add is a property for status. So as I'm reading through papers, I want to know which I haven't started, which are still in progress, and which I've completed. As an additional item that I'd like to add, I also want to know which papers I've skimmed versus actually read all the way through. So here I've just added an additional status option for papers that I've skimmed. Next, I'd like to add a property that highlights a priority level for that manuscript. There are normally a lot of different papers that I'm looking at all at once, and so having a way for me to be able to easily tag papers that are most relevant makes it a bit easier for me to know which I want to look at next. To do that, I can just click Add a Property, and in this particular case, a select property would be ideal. I'll rename it Priority, and I like to update the icons to better reflect the properties. For this select property, I'll want to add different options, including low, medium, high, and one I'll call Read Next, which will just highlight papers that I'd like to read immediately. Another property I'd like to add is another URL property, but this one is going to be for the annotated PDF file. Often I read papers on my iPad and use GoodNotes to annotate the PDF as I read it. To make sure I still have access to that annotated PDF version, I'll include a property here that allows me to add a URL from GoodNotes, taking me to my annotated PDF file. That pretty much covers all of the different properties that I wanted to add to this particular template. As a reminder, there are some additional properties connected to the author's journal and publication year found in this View Details button. But the other thing I'd like to do is actually customize how these are arranged to better organize all these different properties. To do that, I'll click Customize Layout, and now I'll select a few that I actually want to be pinned at the very top of all of my pages. For me, some of the most important pieces of information connected to my reference manager are going to be the related project tags. These are tags that I actually connect to different research topics so that I know how relevant a paper is to a project that I'm working on. Next, I'd also like to have a quick link to the annotated PDF. Often the annotated PDF is where I get most of my research insights, so I want that one to be easily accessible. And then lastly, I'll pin the status as well, so it's very clear and obvious whether or not this is a paper I've read. For this property group that includes the reference URL, PDF file, and priority level, I'm just going to rearrange it so that the PDF is at the top, priorities in the middle, and the reference URL is at the bottom. That pretty much sums up how I'd like to organize the different properties connected to this template. So I'll click Apply to All Pages. As a note, when you're updating layouts within Notion databases, the only available option is to apply that layout to all pages within your database. As one last modification that I'm going to make to this template, I'm actually going to add some information onto the page itself. For most of the papers I read, I like to keep track of notes, as well as some things I'd like to complete after reading the paper. For this, I will add a heading for notes, and then a bullet point to kind of start things off for my template. Next, I'll add another heading for items I'd like to further explore. These often are associated with some level of a paper I'd like to look up or resources I'd like to explore after reading this paper. So I actually will make this a to-do list block. Once all that's complete, I normally ensure that this is the default template used for my database. Then when I select new page, the default template should appear, and that means that all of the notes as well as items to further explore are automatically added onto the page for that particular reference. One thing to note is that when you clip manuscripts from the internet, your default template is not automatically applied. All you'll need to do to apply the template is to go to the page created from the article you clipped from the web, and then click your template from the list on the page. Lastly, the other edit that I'm going to make to this reference manager template is to actually create different views of my information. So right now, this table is going to show all of the papers in this database. To reflect that, I'm going to rename it to All Papers. The thing is though, when I'm actually looking for papers that I want to read next, it's nice to have the ones I've already read filtered out. So to easily do that, I'm going to add a new view. And this one, I'm actually going to make a list instead of a table. The view name for this one is going to be Papers to Read, and I normally just start out by including all of the papers in this view. Then, to make sure that the information that I need is easily visible, I want to make sure that I see not only the manuscript title, but also the PDF for the paper that I'd like to read. Then we can add some filters and sorting to make the papers I'd like to read next show up at the very top of this list. To help make it a little clearer in how the properties are visualized and shown, I've added just a couple examples. First, I'd like to filter this list so that any papers with the status of to do or in progress are included. As you can see, that filtered out the first example because the status for that paper was set to done. Next, I want to sort the papers that are here so that the highest priority papers show up at the top. Now, with both of those filtering and sorting options selected, I should see papers at the top that are most relevant to my research and haven't been read yet. You can always add additional views based off of how you'd like to organize your reference manager. And you can always adjust which properties are viewed by going to the settings button and clicking property visibility. And that's it for this video, where I shared a little about how to tailor one of the Notion templates available in the RSR Resource Library to better suit the research project that I'm currently working on. As a reminder, if you'd like to check out the RSR Resource Library, there'll be a link in the description box below. I also have a playlist on my YouTube channel where I walk through some of the different templates that are available on my website. And lastly, if you're ever interested in getting a customized solution that's designed specifically for your lab or your research, feel free to reach out. I'll put a link in the description box below that will take you to a form on my website where you can fill in some information so I can get back to you and help you create a template that works as soon as you download it. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like it, feel free to subscribe to my channel. Lastly, I'd love to hear from you. Is there a Notion template available on my website that you'd like to learn a little more about how it can be tailored for your particular research group? Feel free to share in the comment section below. And maybe I'll do another video showing how you can tailor the resource you mentioned. But that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.